Men, I want to start with something that may surprise you. In all my years as a doctor, I've met men in their 60s, 70s, even 80s who whisper the same question to me when no one else is listening. Doctor, is it wrong that I still touch myself? They lower their voice, almost as if admitting a crime. Some even laugh nervously and say, "At my age, I should be over that, right?" But let me tell you something very clearly. There is nothing to be ashamed of. In fact, I believe this conversation might save your health, your confidence, and even your relationships. Because here's the truth. We live in a society that tells older men, your sexual years are behind you. You're told to expect decline, to accept weaker erections, to give up intimacy. You're told masturbation is childish, selfish, even harmful. But science tells a different story. And men who embrace that story, who replace shame with knowledge, live not only longer, but better. So today, I want to walk with you through a powerful, shame-free, science-backed journey. We're going to uncover what actually happens in your body when you masturbate after 60. Why guilt and secrecy do more harm than the act itself. How to avoid the habits that weaken erections. And how to turn masturbation into a daily practice of vitality, just like exercise or nutrition. Now, I know some of you may feel skeptical. Maybe you've been told since childhood that self-pleasure is dirty or that it causes health problems. Maybe you notice your erections aren't as strong as they once were and you're blaming masturbation. But let me reassure you, the problem isn't that you're still doing it. The problem is that you were never given the right way to do it. Here's why this matters. After 60, your body changes in 3 key ways. Testosterone naturally declines, which affects desire, mood, and energy. Erections become less predictable because blood vessels stiffen and nerves fire less efficiently. Prostate health becomes more important than ever because issues like enlargement or cancer risk rise with age. And masturbation. Yes, masturbation can be either your secret weapon against those changes or a silent contributor to them, depending on how you approach it. That's why I'm asking you to stay with me through this full conversation. Because this isn't just about private pleasure. It's about your identity as a man, your confidence, your health, your energy, and the message you're sending to yourself every time you touch your body. Do I feel shame or do I feel strength? By the end of this video, I want you to have a plan, a clear, simple, shame-free plan to keep your erections strong, your hormones balanced, and your sexual energy alive well into your later years. Now that we set the stage, let's roll up our sleeves and get into the science of masturbation. What's really happening inside your body after 60. Because when you understand this clearly, something powerful happens. The shame starts to melt away. Shame thrives in secrecy and ignorance, but knowledge gives you confidence. So let's break this into 5 areas: hormones, blood flow, prostate health, brain chemistry, and longevity. First, hormones. Every man knows the word testosterone. It's the hormone that fuels drive, energy, strength, even courage. And yes, it's linked directly to erections. Now here's the myth. Many men believe that every ejaculation drains testosterone, like air leaking out of a balloon. I've had men tell me, "Doctor, I stopped masturbating because I thought it was making me weaker." But here's the reality. Studies show that masturbation and even frequent ejaculation do not cause lasting testosterone loss. In fact, regular sexual activity, including masturbation, helps keep testosterone balanced by stimulating the glands and pathways that produce it. Think of it like this. If you have a factory that hasn't been used in months, the machinery gets rusty. But if you keep that factory running even at a steady pace, the system stays primed and ready. That's exactly what masturbation does for your hormone system. It keeps the machinery engaged, rather than shutting down. So rather than draining testosterone, it supports the very system that makes you feel like a man. Next, blood flow. This is critical. Erections are fundamentally a vascular event, meaning they depend on healthy blood vessels. When you become aroused, nitric oxide is released in your body. This relaxes blood vessel walls, letting more blood rush into the penis. That's what creates hardness. But here's the problem. As men age, those vessels stiffen. They get less responsive. It's a bit like an old garden hose that's been left in the sun. It just doesn't bend and flex like it used to. Now here's the encouraging part. Every erection is a workout. It's like taking that hose and running water through it, keeping it flexible. When you masturbate, you're not just chasing pleasure, you're exercising the very tissue that makes erections possible. And there's more. Erections oxygenate penile tissue. Without oxygen, the smooth muscle inside the penis can literally start to turn to scar-like tissue, a process called fibrosis. Men who go months or years without erections often struggle to get them back, precisely because that tissue has stiffened. So, think of masturbation as physical therapy for your manhood. Just like you'd do stretches to keep your back limber, erections keep the penis alive, elastic, and ready. Now, let's talk about the prostate. Your prostate is a small gland just below the bladder, and it plays a huge role in sexual function. It produces much of the fluid in semen. And after 50, it's a gland that deserves your attention, because risks like enlargement and even cancer increase with age. Here's the fascinating link. Multiple studies suggest that men who ejaculate more often, whether through sex or masturbation, may have lower risk of prostate cancer. Why? One theory is that ejaculation helps flush out old fluids and potential toxins from the prostate. Think of it like changing the oil in your car. If the oil just sits there, it gets dirty and thick, but when it's regularly replaced, the engine runs smoother. Of course, masturbation isn't a magic cure, but it may be one of the simplest, most natural ways to keep your prostate functioning well. And beyond cancer risk, regular ejaculation also helps reduce the discomfort of prostate congestion. Some men who abstain completely notice pelvic pressure or pain. Regular release can ease the mistakes older men make and how to avoid them. Now that you understand the science, it's time to talk about the pitfalls. The mistakes I see men over 60 making again and again when it comes to masturbation. Because here's the reality. Masturbation itself isn't harmful, but how you do it can either strengthen your erections and confidence or slowly chip away at them. Let's break down the most common mistakes, and I'll give you the fixes for each one. One of the biggest mistakes? Rushing. So many men treat masturbation like a race, something to get over with. Maybe you've done this since you were a teenager, sneaking a quick release before someone walked in. And decades later, the habit stuck. But after 60, rushing has consequences. When you go straight for the finish line, you train your brain to expect instant gratification. Decrease sensitivity in your penis. Bypass the natural arousal process that strengthens blood flow. Think of it like skipping your warm-up at the gym. If you just grab the heaviest weight and yank it around, you're more likely to injure yourself, and you never actually build strength the right way. The fix? Slow down. Treat masturbation as a form of exercise or meditation, not a sprint. Aim for at least 15 to 20 minutes, gradually building arousal. This trains your body to respond better with fuller, harder erections. The second mistake is one I hear about constantly, relying too heavily on pornography. Now let me be clear. Porn itself isn't evil. But the problem is this. Porn trains your brain to crave extreme novelty. High speed, high-intensity stimulation rewires your arousal pathways. When that becomes your only source of excitement, reality can feel dull by comparison. I've had countless men tell me, "Doctor, I can get hard with a video, but when I'm with my partner, it just doesn't work." That's not because you're broken. It's because your brain has been overstimulated in one direction. The fix? Detox and diversify. Practice masturbating without porn. Use your imagination. Focus on physical sensation, your breathing, or even erotic literature if you need stimulation. Train your brain to respond to realistic levels of arousal again. It may feel difficult at first, like stepping down from strong coffee to tea. But over time, your natural sensitivity and responsiveness will return. The third mistake is physical, using too much pressure or the same narrow technique for decades. Some men grip too tightly, creating what's known as the death grip. This can desensitize nerves, making partner sex less pleasurable. Others only use one position, one stroke, one routine. Imagine playing the same piano key over and over for 40 years. Eventually, that key gets worn down while the rest of the instrument is ignored. The fix? Variety and gentleness. Try different strokes, different rhythms, even different positions. Lying down, standing, sitting. Use lubrication to reduce friction. Remember, your goal isn't just release, it's training sensitivity, blood flow, and pleasure across the whole sexual system. The fourth mistake, treating masturbation as a purely genital act. Men often focus only on the penis, ignoring the rest of their body. But arousal is full body. Your chest, your breathing, your pelvic floor muscles, they all play a role. When you ignore them, you rob yourself of stronger erections and more satisfying orgasms. The fix? Engage your whole body. Practice deep breathing. Flex and relax your pelvic floor muscles during arousal. Stroke other areas, thighs, chest, even your scalp. Think of it as playing an orchestra, not just one instrument. And here's the most damaging mistake: carrying guilt every time you masturbate. I cannot emphasize this enough. Guilt triggers stress. Stress releases cortisol, and cortisol is a testosterone killer. It narrows blood vessels, weakens erections, and drags down your energy. So if every time you finish, you sigh and think, "I shouldn't have done that," you're undoing many of the benefits. The fix? Reframe the act. Remind yourself, this is not shameful. This is self-care. This is therapy for my body. If you need a mental trick, think of masturbation as you would brushing your teeth. No one feels guilty about cleaning their teeth. It's basic hygiene. Well, ejaculation is a form of prostate hygiene, blood flow hygiene, even hormone hygiene. So let's pause here. We've covered the biggest mistakes: rushing, overusing porn, gripping too tightly, ignoring the body, and letting guilt poison the experience. Now imagine this. What if instead of making those mistakes, you turned masturbation into a structured practice, just like a fitness routine? That's exactly what we'll cover next: how to build a healthy, shame-free masturbation practice after 60. One that supports your erections, your hormones, your prostate, and your confidence. And I'll give you step-by-step techniques you can use starting tonight. Up to now, we've cleared away myths, explored the science, and exposed the mistakes. Now let's flip the script. Let's turn masturbation into what it should be for a man over 60, a tool for health, vitality, and confidence. Because just like exercise, nutrition, or sleep, the way you approach this habit determines whether it drains you or builds you. So let me give you a 5-step framework. Think of this as your sexual vitality workout. Each step is simple, but together they transform masturbation from a guilty habit into a powerful health practice. First, set the environment. Most men never think about this. They treat masturbation as something secretive, rushed, almost mechanical. But the truth is, your environment shapes your arousal. Instead of hiding, create space. Dim the lights. Put on calm music. Make sure you won't be interrupted. Why? Because your nervous system has 2 modes: fight or flight and rest and repair. Erections thrive in the second. If you're tense, anxious, or rushed, blood won't flow properly. So the first step is to make it safe, private, relaxed. Treat it the way you'd treat meditation, stretching, or prayer. Something intentional, not shameful. The second step is mindful arousal. Instead of going straight for stimulation, start with awareness. Notice your breathing. Notice how your body feels. When you begin touching yourself, slow down. Pay attention to the buildup. If your mind wanders, gently bring it back to sensation. This does 2 things. First, it rewires your brain to enjoy the journey instead of obsessing about the finish line. Second, it strengthens the arousal pathways that lead to harder, longer-lasting erections. Think of it like savoring a fine meal. If you rush, you miss the flavors. But if you eat slowly, every bite becomes richer, more satisfying. Step 3. Use techniques that build erection strength and control. One of the best is called edging. This means bringing yourself close to orgasm, then backing off. Rest for a minute, breathe, then build up again. What does this do? It trains your body to hold arousal longer, increases blood flow, and often leads to more intense orgasms. Another technique: change positions. Try standing, kneeling, or even light squats during arousal. This engages your pelvic floor, the same muscles responsible for firmness. And don't forget the PC muscles. Try squeezing your pelvic floor, the same muscles you'd use to stop urine flow, while you're aroused. That's like weight training for your erection system. Step 4. Find your frequency. Here's where men often ask, "Doctor, how often should I masturbate?" There's no one-size-fits-all answer. But for most men over 60, the sweet spot is 2 to 4 times per week. Why? Because this frequency keeps blood flowing, keeps hormones engaged, and maintains prostate health. without tipping into compulsive habits. If you're doing it every single day and feel drained afterward, scale back. If you're only doing it once every month or two, increase it. The key is consistency. Just like exercise, the benefit comes from regular practice, not random bursts. Finally, step 5, integrate masturbation with the rest of your health routine. Think of your sexual system as connected to everything else. What you eat, how you move, how you sleep, it all feeds into your erections. Nutrition. Foods rich in zinc, like pumpkin seeds, oysters, nuts, fuel testosterone and sperm health. L-arginine, found in poultry, fish, beans, boosts nitric oxide, which powers erections. Exercise. Cardio keeps blood vessels healthy. Strength training boosts testosterone. And pelvic floor exercises directly support sexual stamina. Sleep. At least 7 hours per night is when your body produces the majority of testosterone. If you're sleep deprived, no amount of supplements will fix your erections. Supplements. Magnesium, vitamin D, and omega-3s are powerful allies for vascular and hormonal health. When you combine these with a mindful masturbation routine, you create a system that works together, like different gears in the same machine. Each gear makes the other stronger. Now, let me leave you with this reframe. For decades, men have been told that masturbation is a dirty secret, something to hide, something to feel guilty about. But here's the truth. For a man over 60, masturbation can be one of the most natural, effective, and enjoyable health practices available. It's not about hiding, it's about healing. It's not about guilt, it's about growth. So when you set the environment, slow down, practice edging, find your healthy frequency, and stack it with the right foods, exercise, and sleep, masturbation stops being a source of shame. It becomes a foundation of vitality. And when you carry that confidence into the rest of your life, with your partner, your work, your passions, you'll notice the ripple effects everywhere. Now, as we close this conversation, I want to circle back to the theme we started with, shame. Because science, techniques, routines, they all matter. But none of it works if every time you touch yourself, you feel guilty. Shame is the real enemy here. Not masturbation, not aging, shame. And shame has a way of sneaking into your thoughts. Maybe you hear an old voice from childhood, "That's dirty." Maybe you hear society saying, "You're too old for that." Maybe you hear your own doubt whispering, "Something must be wrong with me." But here's the truth. Those voices are lies. They don't belong to you. They were handed to you by culture, religion, peers, sometimes even family. You never chose them, but you've carried them. And today, I'm asking you to put them down. Because what is actually true? Science tells us masturbation strengthens erections by keeping blood flowing, supports testosterone and hormone health, cleanses and protects the prostate, lifts mood, sharpens the brain, lowers stress, extends longevity by keeping your body and mind engaged. And beyond science, there's something deeper. Every time you choose to embrace your sexuality without shame, you're telling yourself, "I am still alive. I am still powerful. I am still a man with desire and energy." That shift in identity matters more than any supplement, any pill, any quick fix. Because confidence and self-respect fuel every other part of health. I've seen men in their 70s and 80s carry themselves differently after reframing masturbation. Shoulders back, eyes brighter, conversations with their partners filled with hope instead of defeat. So, as we finish today, I want you to imagine this. Tonight, when you touch yourself, you don't do it in secrecy or guilt. You do it with intention. You breathe deeply. You slow down. You remind yourself, this is not shameful. This is medicine. This is my right. This is my vitality. Carry that energy into tomorrow. Carry it into your relationships. Carry it into the way you walk through the world. Because the truth is, you are not too old. You are not broken. And you are not alone. On this channel, Desire and Energy After 50, we are rewriting the story of aging. We're breaking the silence. We're building men who are stronger, more vibrant, more confident in their 60s and 70s than they ever thought possible. So here's my challenge to you. If this video spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to the channel, leave a comment below, and share this with another man who needs to hear it. Because the more we talk about this openly, the less shame has power over us. Thank you for spending this hour with me. I'm Dr. Elena, and I'll see you in the next video, where we'll go even deeper into how men over 60 can rebuild rock-hard erections and lasting vitality. Until then, remember, this is your body, your health, your energy, and you have nothing